Hello, everybody, and welcome to the show today. So today with us is a very special guest. We're going to be diving into all kinds of really cool topics related to growing strategies for your business. So with us today is Monica Shah. Now, Monica is the seven-figure business coach who helps entrepreneurs build businesses that support their ideal lifestyles. After receiving her MBA from the Kellogg School of Management and working in marketing for L'Oreal Paris, Monica left corporate to start her first company, then her second, Revenue Breakthrough. Today, she takes her clients step by step through building, growing, and expanding their businesses. She combines her business acumen with her intuition and healing abilities to help her clients get unstuck, eliminate self-sabotage, and move through fear. She's also the author of Getting Rich, You're Doing It Backwards, and Pause, 52 Questions That Lead to More Money and Time. And this is the second time she's been on with us today, one of a handful of guests that was cool, so cool that we invited back. Monica, thanks for coming back.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be back here.
Well, I told you last time, I'm like, look, we got a lot more stuff to dive into because we only scratched the surface for the first time, and you have this unique skill set of healing abilities and things that you combine in coaching that I've never seen before. So I'm looking forward to diving into a lot of that kind of stuff.
Awesome. I am so excited to jump in. I just finished an event of doing all kinds of that, so I'm all primed and ready.
All right, perfect. Well, let's dive in there. How was your event? What did you cover there?
Yeah, it's called the Master Your Money event, and it's 3 days of combining spiritual healing and clearing around money blocks with the skills to actually make money. So on day one, we go into spiritual clearing and healing, and then around money blocks that are getting in your way. And then on day two, we talk about clarity and messaging and the 9 activities to make money. And then on day 3, we talk about how to do the sales conversation and how to build a support team. So it's a combination of everything you need to be able to look at money differently, because my mission on the planet is to actually get more money in the hands of the right people, because when we do that, this world will look like a different place. And in order to do that, we actually just need to get what I call skilled up, really learning different skill sets to be able to handle money better.
Yeah, that's awesome. So I think I said, it's why you're here. It's so unique. So what do you do? What kind of cleansing or rituals do you see that maybe somebody could learn something here right now that they can do when they have those blocks? I think we all have these money blocks.
Absolutely. So, okay. So a couple things. I think we can start with the basics and then go a level deeper. And here's where the basics start with understanding that in our heads at all given times, we have this what I call a round table. And it's conference table. And in every chair of that conference table, there are voices that are speaking. And many of those voices are dictating what you do in your business and what actions you're taking, whether you realize it or not. And much of that comes from what you saw around money when you were growing up, what you experienced around money when you were growing up, and how money was for you growing up. So, for example, just at the event, I had someone come to the mic, and his parents had always told him that you couldn't be creative and make a ton of money. And because of that, he literally carried in his head, I can't be creative and make a ton of money. And so he was making a movie. And when he came to me with the movie, it had literally taken them 7 years to make the movie. And it was because he always felt like he had to do other things with it, like a consulting job or some sort of day job, because he was never going to make money from the movie. And it was taking forever to get the movie out. And so when we noticed that he was carrying this belief or this voice in his head, we created a new one. And the new one was, I can be creative and make as much money as I want. And in fact, the more creative I am, the more money I will make. And when he was finally able to step into that, he left his day job for a year and worked part-time doing some consulting things to cover the bills. During that time, finished the movie. And then the movie ended up playing at Tribeca, at Berlin, and they ended up playing it in theaters. So it ended up being very successful, but it was only when he allowed himself to have that degree of success. And so if you're thinking through this for yourself, really pausing and asking yourself, what did my mom and dad say about money when I was growing up? And what was it like for me? And how much did we have? And what do I remember our conversations being about? And then what that really dictates is those are all voices that are playing in your head right now. And they're really dictating the behaviors and the actions that you're taking around money. You're muted.
That was awesome. You're supposed to just know what I was saying, like read lips and you figure it out. You're like, that was awesome. Okay, so a lot of what you're talking about then are, roadblocks we're having now have to do with barriers that we had in a lot of cases from when we were very young. But I think a lot of us don't make that connection. A lot of us now don't even know we have the limiting belief to begin with. So I guess let's start there. With these limiting beliefs, how do you even recognize you have a limiting belief? Because in his mind, right, that example, those are logical rationalizations. He's too busy. He's doing this. He doesn't have time to get to it. So how do you then track the fact that he's procrastinating back to the fact of what it was? I mean, how does somebody start to make that connection on their own?
It's okay, so there's lots of different ways, and the first is to just start journaling about it, like to write down, what did my parents say to me about money? What did my parents say to me about success? Or the people that raised me, whether it was your parents or grandmother, whatever. And then really start connecting that with, okay, that created your entire belief system around what success is. And where you want to always start is, what are you currently struggling with? Because your struggles, so like if you make a list of your struggles, and for him, one of his struggles was that it was taking longer than he wanted to finish the movie. And I knew that all of your struggles are related to the beliefs, habits, and values that you picked up sometime between the age of 0 to 7. Because 0 to 7, you were a sponge and you picked up everything. So you want to start making a list of where your struggles are, then journaling to answer these questions and seeing the connections, because likely is there's a connection there. Now, it does go a level deeper than this, Ty, and that is that there's another place where I work with people. Now, this one, it's a little hard to do on your own, but I'll describe it, which is I also do muscle testing with people, because sometimes just as you were saying, like sometimes you can't make the connection. Like you're struggling with something, but it doesn't relate to something that you remember, like your parents saying or your parents doing, or you feel like you've already worked through it. So you're not really able to make the connection. So when I do my healing and clearing work, I have people muscle test. So that means that they stand up, they close their eyes, and they say a belief. If your body goes forward, then you're a yes. And if your body goes backward, then you're a no. And one way to calibrate this for yourself is to stand up and say, my name is Monica, right? And your body will go forward. My body would go forward. When I'm a purple elephant, and my body would go backwards. And that's your yes and your no. And so sometimes, like I just worked with a client who was really experiencing quite a bit of struggle. Just everything was a struggle. And so when we tested, her body believed that business has to be a struggle and success has to be a struggle. And when we looked deeper into it, and again, this is really around your belief systems. You don't have to believe this stuff. But there are things. I believe in past lives because I'm Indian. And I believe that sometimes we come in with contracts that come from either ancestors or past lives or generations behind us that we didn't even really create in this lifetime. And sometimes we're also working through lessons that our higher self believes that we need to keep working through. And in the case of this particular woman, what we got really clear on is that she had made the contract that business was going to be a struggle and success was going to be a struggle because it slowed her down. And she needed to be slowed down so she didn't have too much success at once, because if she did, she would lose the people that she loved. And this all came through body testing. And once we did that, we were able to clear those beliefs and contracts and have her believe in and, really start to believe like I can, business can be easy. It doesn't have to be a struggle. Things can flow to me. I don't have to work for them. I don't always have to take the hard way. So it's also, sometimes it's just about knowing that your body holds on to these beliefs, and it's not always clear whether you believe in past lives, whether you believe in ancestors. It doesn't really matter. It's not always clear where it came from.
It's always so cool talking to you because I learned so many new things. And this muscle testing was just introduced to me the first time ever last week. I've never even heard of this before. And the guy that introduced me to it, you know, is the same way with arms, right? You put your arms out, and then if it's true, I think is it easy to push? It's easy to push down.
If it's true, if it's false, it's easy to push down. If it's true, it stays up.
Right. And so the same thing with closing your eyes and leaning forward. If it's true, that's really, I mean, that's a really cool because like I've often said that you lie to yourself. Yes. You don't mean to, you just, like you said, you have these beliefs and you tell this whole story in your head, and then that determines what your reality is, but it's not really your reality. It's just like what you believe your reality to be.
And it's often in conflict. So when the reason I was introduced to all of this stuff is because in 2013, I was trying to film my very first 3-day event, the one that I just talked about. And it was 2012, actually. And I got to about 6 weeks out from the event, and literally 30 people canceled in the same week. For the event. And I was like so devastated because we had paid $65,000 already to the hotel. Like I needed to fill this room. I didn't know what was causing everybody to cancel. And they all had valid reasons. It wasn't like, they were like, it just, I don't know, for whatever reason, they weren't coming to the event. And when I muscle tested it, what I realized is that I was programmed that if I wasn't allowed to be on a stage with more than 50 people in the room. And so as long as more than 50 people registered, it was like my body was like, no, this isn't going to happen, even though my mind really wanted it. And we actually had to clear all of that. And, for me at that point, it came from a past life experience of not having a good experience on a stage. But we cleared all of it. And when we were able to clear all of it, it wasn't like I just sat back and ate bonbons and then everybody registered. Like it didn't happen like that. What happened was we cleared the space, and then that allowed me to go out and do more marketing activities, more connecting, create more partnerships. And we ended up filling that event with more than 100 people. But it was because I was allowed to release the beliefs that were getting in my way.
Yeah, and I love how you put that, because anybody that's seen read the book or seen The Secret, it's that same way. You can believe that what comes to you just comes to you. But that's not what this is about. What this is about is recognizing there's a barrier, removing the barrier, and then working like heck to accomplish that goal that you weren't able to accomplish because you had these barriers you didn't know about. I just think that's so interesting because, again, what happens is that it's the things falling apart, and really subconsciously you're sabotaging it. You don't even recognize you are. So how do you can somebody go about this kind of clearing process somewhat? Obviously not as much as they could if they were working with someone like you, but is there some way they can do this process on their own to kind of get their balance?
Yeah. I mean, one way to do it is first, so this can be done in just about anything. Whatever you're having conflict around, you can muscle test for it. So for example, for me, I was having conflict around the fact that I wanted, and what I mean by conflict is you want something and it's either not happening, or you want something and it feels really hard to do. Like you have to push yourself with all of your willpower and energy to get it done. Like that's where conflict arises. Because the most successful people for sure are working hard, but they're not having to push through a bunch of resistance and confusion and overwhelm. Like they've worked through a lot of that. So what they're doing is a lot easier in terms of energetically. So if you're having conflict, notice where the conflict is. So for me, another example is I was trying to release weight. And I wasn't releasing it. Like I was eating, and I was doing stuff for self-sabotage for sure. Like I was not eating perfectly, and it wasn't exercising regularly, but it felt like every time I was doing things I still wasn't releasing the weight. So it was this sort of circular process of being really disappointed and upset about it. And when I muscle tested, and the way you close your eyes to muscle test, and then make sure you've drinking some water, because if you're dehydrated, you won't muscle test well. And then make sure that you are calibrated. And the way you make sure you're calibrated is that you close your eyes and you say, my name is. And then you should go forward. That should be your yes. And then something ridiculous, like I'm a purple elephant, or I'm a, green striped giraffe, or whatever it is. And then you should go backwards. Now, if your yeses and nos aren't calibrated, one of the things you can do is drink more water. And then the second thing is that you can just ask God or the divine or the creator or the universe, whatever you think about, to calibrate you and to allow you, to give you permission to receive answers. And that should help you to be recalibrated. Once you've got your yeses and nos, and you always calibrate every day, every time you do this work. So just because you're calibrated on a Monday, if you're doing it on a Wednesday, you want to recalibrate because the body changes every day. Then you know your yeses and nos. After that, you can just start testing beliefs for yourself. So for me, I started saying, I'm allowed to lose weight. It is possible for me to lose weight or to release weight. It is possible. And for me, I kept getting no's. Like, I'm not allowed. It is not possible. And even though I wanted it, I realized, oh, I'm blocked here. There's some belief blocks. And that's why this is just so hard for me to do. So you start to get your yeses and your nos. The most important thing is that you close your eyes. Because if you open your eyes, your head tends to get in the way. And also, like, for women, don't do this with high heels on, because it'll affect your yes and no's. And for men, I've worked with a lot of men who, for whatever reason, tend to have, it's not even 10, some men, I should say, have a little bit more subtler of a response. So literally, you wouldn't be able to physically see whether they're leaning yes or no. It is so subtle of a movement. And if that's you, man or woman, know that that's okay. Like, all that is important is that you know your yeses and nos. It doesn't have to be visible to anyone else. It doesn't have to be pronounced. And that lets you know the beliefs that are in your body. And at that point, there's a whole process that I do when I work with people on this. I check in on why you might be holding that belief, and we clear the beliefs around it. But what you can do for yourself is you can ask yourself why. What is the benefit of you holding this belief? And you can either journal about it, or just think about it, or talk to someone about it, because the body's always holding a belief for a good reason. It is holding the belief because it believes that it will protect you, that this is a protection mechanism for you. So sometimes the body will not release that belief unless it knows that it can already do that thing that is good. So for example, for me, the weight piece, I was holding on to the weight because I believed that by holding on to the weight, it would slow me down, and it would give me more rest and recovery. Because if I release the weight, then I would be able to move. And that's the other thing you should know. It's completely ridiculous. There's no logical sense in your why. There doesn't have to be. Just kind of think about what is coming up for you intuitively when you ask the question, what is the benefit here? Why am I carrying this? And for me, it was all about if I were to release the weight, I would move faster, I would do more, and then I wouldn't rest as much. It was my body's way of slowing me down. And once you come up with those reasons, what you can do is you can ask the universe to help you understand that you can have the opposite of it, meaning I could have rest and recovery and still release weight. I could move as fast or as slow as I want to, no matter what. And you want to go ahead and say those beliefs and ask God, the universe, the creator, to help clear the ones that aren't working for you and download the new ones.
Wow, that's awesome. I mean, that's a whole step-by-step guide for completely reprogramming.
Yeah. And I mean, so the belief systems are the redwood trees, where you've got a tree and then the roots are connected, and then the roots are connected to all the other redwood trees. That's how beliefs are. So if you're finding that you keep doing this on yourself and it's not quite working, you just should get some help, because really what's happening is that you might have a very deeply rooted belief that is connected to a bunch of other roots, and you just need to get a longer, larger session with somebody who is outside of yourself.
Now, can you help with stuff like this virtually?
Yeah, I do. That's how I do it. I do it all virtually. And I watch, and I do it also in person at my events, but 90% of the time I'm doing it virtually with people.
So what do you think about intuition? Because intuition seems like it can go either way based on what you're saying, right? If you have, you're doing something that doesn't feel right, is that kind of where you go through this process? Because, sometimes that could be a legitimate alert that something's wrong. And sometimes maybe you're just being paranoid about something. How do you kind of recognize the difference? I just think that's so important as entrepreneurs that we have these feelings and we need to learn how to interpret them because it really could go one way or the other.
It's such a great question. And it's something that, so there's a difference. It's something that I've been exploring for a long time, and actually something that I'm going to be writing more and more about is, so intuition is different from fear. So that's the first piece to recognize. The intuitive voice is never going to say things like, you can't afford that. You can't do that. You're not good at that. There's not enough of that. Because those are all voices of fear. So those things, when you hear things like that, it's usually coming from a place of fear. The intuitive voice is more about giving you direction. Step into this. Do that. Turn right. Turn left. Call this person. Be here now. It may tell you to stop doing something. Stop talking now. Stop walking on the street. But it never gives you like comparative or critical assessments. And that's the first thing to understand, is to really separate, to really get clear, what is this voice saying to me? And then identify, is this the voice of intuition or is this the voice of fear? Because they sound very similar. Right? Fear is very smart. It actually really is very good at disguising itself as intuition, especially like I always tell people, the smarter you are, the smarter your fear is. And it will absolutely delude you into stopping what moving yourself forward. So that's the first piece. The second piece is identify where it comes from in your body. And this takes practice. Like, people's intuitive voice is pretty consistently from the same place. So you'll maybe feel your voice coming from here, around your throat area, or maybe you feel your voice coming from around your belly area, or maybe it'll come from between your eyebrows around your third eye, or maybe it'll come from the top of your head, your crown area. Wherever you identify your intuition is coming from, know for the most part, it's always going to come from that place. And so you can start to trust, if it came from this place in my body, that's most likely intuition. Whereas fear comes from everywhere, and fear changes location. I mean, you can have fear from your right leg. You can have fear from the left side of your head. I mean, you can have fear be all over your body, and it's fairly inconsistent. So that also gives you another source to really determine the difference between fear and intuition. And then the other piece to know is that fear is loud, intuition is soft. So fear will yell at you to stop something or to not do something because you're tired, whereas intuition tends to be more of a whisper. It tends to be a lot more subtle about it. And if you don't make the space for intuition, you won't hear it at all. So often you'll hear your intuition before you're going to sleep at night, or when you're in the shower, or when you're on a bike ride, or the first thing when you wake up in the morning, because those are the more quiet times in your life that are allowing for the intuition. Whereas the voice of fear or the voice of resistance, those voices will play all day long, no matter what you're doing. So, I mean, that's, I think, a couple things to really determine the difference between intuition and fear. And then just on a very practical level, I recommend, and I really think the smarter you are, the more you should do this, that every entrepreneur wake up every morning and write your 3 tasks for what you want to get done that day, 3 of them. And look at your calendar and, really put things into your calendar. This is the block of time I'm going to do this. This is the block of time I'm going to do this. This is the block of time I'm going to do that. And then at the end of the day, evaluate what you got done. And then do that at the end of a week as well. Because what I find is that we're very delusional. And so we can think that we're following intuition on what we're doing and what we're not doing when we're really just riding the tide of fear and resistance. Often our deepest fears are what I call like black, I call them the like hooded black capes. And what I mean by that is like, it's like your fear is like this black that you put on, and it comes on behind your head, and you can't even see it, and you don't even know you're wearing it, but you're totally operating from a place of fear. And the only way you would know that you are operating from a place of fear is if you're not actually doing what you set to do. And that's a great wake-up call every night, is to ask yourself, did I do what I was supposed to do today? And if I didn't, was I riding the wave of fear and resistance, and I didn't even realize it? And the great thing about looking at that daily is that you have the next day to make it up. And one of my favorite sort of quotes from is, as entrepreneurs, we can totally waste a day. That is no problem. We can even waste 2 days. That is no problem. But it is when you start wasting a week at a time that you really start to fall far behind in your business, and you start to be able to not really catch up with your goals.
I love how you broke all that down. And the next question, I guess, is how do you then get less fear and more intuition? Because we all get it. Like, 76,000 generations as hunter-gatherers, and we have all these irrational fears to keep us safe from lions and stuff that we no longer really have to worry about. But how do we lessen those? Still stay safe. Like, I don't want to turn off fear. Like, I still want to stay safe, but I want more intuition and less fear.
It's an interesting question, because I'm not sure that that's going to happen.
You're not supposed to tell me that. You're supposed to give me hope.
So here's what's interesting about growth. Whenever you're in a space of something that you've never done before, okay, thought I was going to sneeze, but whenever you're in a space of something that you've never done before, or you're in your discomfort zone, fear is a natural byproduct of that. And it is your body's it's literally like a chemical where your body's like, hey, I'm uncomfortable. Let me bring up the feel-good chemical of fear, because the feel-good, and really this is how the body thinks of it, the feel-good chemical of fear is what's going to take you out of the game. And then when it takes you out of the game, suddenly you're safe again. And this is like a process that happens whenever we're doing something that is new for us. Now, being an entrepreneur by very definition is that every day you're doing something new. And if you intend on, when I work with entrepreneurs and we do their plan and we lay out their numbers, a lot of the entrepreneurs that I work with want to grow by 50% or more, right? And if you're growing by, if you want to grow your income by 50% or more, I would even say 30% or more, chances are you're going to have to do something you've never done before. Like, what got you here is not going to get what is not what got you there. It's not going to be what gets you there. So therefore, fear is going to come up every time you're learning a new skill or diving into something new. If you want consistent, 10 to 30% growth, you can stay in your comfort zone, because 10 to 30% growth is just above what you did that previous year, right? And it's great. There's nothing wrong with 10 to 30% growth, but a lot of people want 30 to 130% growth. And you're going to be, so really what it's about is learning to manage the fear and learning to befriend the fear, not trying to eliminate it and not trying to resist it. So Pema Children has this great piece that she talks about, being alive is like standing at the ocean. And when you're alive at the beginning, when you're younger, you're standing at the ocean and the waves of life come and they completely knock you down and they throw you for a loop, and you go into circles of the grass, and you've got in the sand, and you've got sand everywhere. You got sand in your pants, you've got sand in your hair, you've got sand in your eyes, and it's a disaster. You're coughing and you're choking the salt water, and it's all you can do to stand back up. And then as you keep going in life, life keeps coming at you. And as it keeps coming at you, you get stronger. And then, the next sort of phase is that the waves come and they still knock you down, and you still do somersaults, and sand gets everywhere, but you get up faster and you don't choke as much. And then there comes a time when the waves keep coming and they keep coming, and then all of a sudden they knock you down and you get back up, and then they keep coming and they stop knocking you down. and you just stand and you receive, and you know that this is life, right? This wave is life. And that's very much a great metaphor for expanding your container, which people used to say that all the time. And I'd be like, I don't know what that means. And I don't care because I'm struggling. And now I really get that, like, what that means is that you're able to, within your container, see the fear, feel the fear, and keep going, and not be so resistant every time fear comes up, because it is a part of the process. And another quick thing to add to this is so I just finished my event, and I did a ritual last night where I just thanked, Creator, and I thanked everyone who's a part of the event, and I lit some candles, and then I created some goals for the next 12 months. And in doing this, I also picked some tarot cards to kind of guide me along what was next for me. And it was funny because the card that I picked for the next 12 months was the Fool. And the Fool it's a picture of a man with a stick, and on the end of the stick is a little bag. And the little bag has all his stuff in it. All his life possessions are in this little bag. And he's standing on the edge of a mountain. And there's a little dog nipping at his feet, trying to tell him he's got 1 foot in the air. He's about to fall off the mountain. And this little dog is nipping, and he's saying, hey, you're about to fall off the mountain. You're gonna lose your footing. You're gonna lose your footing. You're gonna fall. And he's completely happily ignoring it. And it's the metaphor of the Fool that we need to remember, is that everything new in our business is going to cause fear. That fear is going to want to prevent us from stepping in. When we step in, we're not going to be perfect. We're going to fall off the cliff. We might get bruised. We might hit the bottom. But then we have to play the act of the Fool, because what he knows to be true is that to be enough there and everything's going to be okay. Like, he's not worried about it. And the next card in the tarot deck after the Fool is the Magician. And the Magician is all about harnessing power from above and harnessing power from below to manifest and create everything you want in your life. And so one of the lessons of the Fool is that you have to be willing to take the risks and move through your fear in order to get to be the Magician. And I thought it was interesting that I pulled the Fool for myself, because it was a great reminder for me of, Monica, you got to be the Fool again. Like, if you want to keep growing, you got to be willing to step off a cliff. You've got to be willing to honor new beginnings. You got to be willing to have smaller numbers. You've got to be willing to do things that are uncomfortable all over again, so that you can experience the growth that you want to experience.
I love how you broke it down, because it really makes sense for a lot of us, and why we have this uneasy feeling all the time as entrepreneurs. I mean, we are constantly learning new stuff. We have to learn new skills all the time to be in businesses that grow beyond the level that we even, understood at the time. So we're just in a constant state of uncertainty, and then that constant state of fear. And I like how you said it. It just comes down to, you got to really learn to use that and as fuel, basically, instead of running from it.
And then there's 2 other aspects for managing it, I think, that are super important. Piece 1 is that you have to have some sort of spiritual practice as an entrepreneur. And it doesn't even have to be called spiritual if you don't want it to be, but a practice that reminds you of faith and trust. The faith that everything's going to be okay, and the trust that no matter what happens, it will resolve itself. So that really helps you manage the fear. So I tell my people, read 7 pages a day, or listen to 15 minutes of some inspirational piece every single day as your foundation. It is not like an optional. It is required. If you are going to play this game, you've got to build the foundational faith and trust. And then the other aspect for managing fear is that you have to treat yourself like a high-level athlete. Ultimately, as entrepreneurs, we use up a lot of energy between the performance that we be at, between everything that we're doing, and then between everything that we're learning. We are wearing ourselves out each day. So you have to take care of yourself. So eating well, sleeping well, recovery time has to be part of the. Otherwise, you will burn out, because it is very much a place where you're managing fear and you're learning something new every single day.
Man, we've covered so much stuff. I love talking to you, because we think like very similar on a lot of stuff, which, isn't like common for a lot of people to have the same beliefs. What's some parting advice as we get ready to wrap up? What are some things that you just think can help everybody watching, help everybody listening to just become more centered, more in tune with themselves, more in tune with learning from their intuition and using fear, all the things we've talked about? What are some parting thoughts?
I think the thing that so as of this year, I will have been in business for 14 years, full time, on my own. And one of the things that I noticed is that what got really old for me, and I think this is true for so many of my clients, is when you are emotionally married to your business. So, for example, when things go well, you're really happy. When things don't go well, you're really sad. And not only does it affect your emotional mood, it affects who you are as a human being. So when things are going well, you're nice to your husband or your wife. And when things aren't going well, you're impatient, you're short with your kids, you're not a good friend. And so it's almost like you're living on this roller coaster with your business. And one of the things you'll notice over time is that you don't have control over that roller coaster. I mean, you could give it your all for a particular sale, and then it could fall through, or the contract could not work, or the money couldn't come, or you could have, and also the good comes with the bad. Like I remember one particular week where I really got this. On Monday, I got a bill from the IRS for $7,000 I didn't know. On Tuesday, I signed a new client. On Wednesday, we had somebody bow out of a contract. I mean, it was literally like in 1 week, I experienced every high and low. And so you can't control that kind of experience. So what are you going to do? And this is where, for me, I've started to really practice the act of unconditional joy and surrender. And what that means is that you start to really cultivate a sense of what joy is for you, internal to you, that is not affected by your external environment. And one of the ways to do that is to really surrender to everything that comes up in your business and not make it be about you. So what that means, and surrendering can be a bad word, so perhaps for people, perhaps a better word is to lean in with curiosity to what's going on in your business instead of making it be about you. And knowing that everything that's happening is a spiritual experience. So if you are feeling triggered, it is because you're experiencing this experience, like this contract that backed out, is triggering some sort of internal wound within you. So if you can just start to breathe through that wound and breathe through that trigger instead of fighting reality all the time, business becomes a lot easier.
Monica, great advice today. Where can everybody go that's watching, listening to learn more?
Sure. So I think the best place for people to go is we have something called our marketing calendar, and we didn't talk a lot about specific marketing activities for this, but I think that it's the underlying piece that people want to know more about. And it's a calendar that tells you actions to do to make money. And it'll also lead you to some more recordings and some more videos on the more spiritual aspects of this as well. So go to revenuebreakthrough.com/marketing calendar. revenuebreakthrough.com/marketing calendar in order to pick up that marketing calendar and learn more about the spiritual pieces of what we do. And then for those of you that also want to dive into the money healing pieces, I encourage you to get the marketing calendar first and then also to join our Facebook group. And it's at revenuebreakthrough.com/FB group. revenuebreakthrough.com/FB as in Facebook group. And I've got every Monday I do a money healing video that you can actually participate in and like really feel the clearing for yourself in that group.
Thanks, Monica, for coming on. You've been amazing today.
Thank you so much. I so appreciate it. It was so much fun.
Yeah, it was cool. I mean, last time we got into the marketing stuff, but this time, but then at the end, we got into this. I'm like, we should do a whole session just on this. And I'm glad we did, because this is deep stuff that really holds the majority of us back that we don't even know. It's like carbon monoxide. It's like the secret gas that's killing us and we don't even realize what's going on. It's really powerful that you shared this with us today.
And it's like when you figure it out, I like to, it's like the slip and slide. Like when you figure it out, you can just slide into success versus having to fight your way through it. So it's a lot easier.
So everybody, thank Monica again. Thanks to God. This was so powerful. So everybody, thanks for tuning in. Wow, right? So I really, really, really love this because I really believe that success is mind, body, soul. And I think if you talk to any entrepreneurs that are really successful, they've tapped into that. They realize that. They practice meditation. They practice yoga. They do a lot of things to keep their mind healthy, their soul, their spiritual side is healthy as well. So tapping into these things like limiting beliefs that are holding us back and the difference between intuition and fear and how to harness fear and use it for you are so important because we're navigating minefields as entrepreneurs every single day. Every day we're learning stuff we have to learn to be able to progress the business to the next level. So we're in a constant state of flux, a constant state of uncomfortability, and how to recognize that and use that to help be the fuel that powers you is really a cool thing. And that's what Monica showed us today. So make sure you go to revenuebreakthrough.com. That's revenuebreakthrough.com/marketing calendar. revenuebreakthrough.com/marketing calendar. And I'll have that on the show resources page. Also, make sure you visit revenuebreakthrough.com/FB group. FB, short for Facebook group. That's revenuebreakthrough.com/FB group to visit their group and see what's going on. A lot of great information we didn't even dip into. You're able to get there on Monica's website, in her group, and that marketing calendar is so powerful to make sure that you don't have down times in your business. So make sure you grab that. So thanks for tuning in. Make sure you visit revenuebreakthrough.com/marketing calendar to grab your free marketing calendar. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.